Jefferson County Court at Law number 2 is back in session. Our next case is cause number 331698. The case is style of State of Texas versus Jessie Marie DeRoot. Ms. DeRoot, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Ms. DeRoot, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. DeRoot, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
Ms. DeRoot, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Ms. DeRoot?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Ms. DeRoot, you're here represented by your attorney, Attorney John Macy. Attorney Macy, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Your Honor. Thanks for asking.
Mr. Macy, do you waive a record in Ms. DeRoot's case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. DeRoot, I have before me in cause number 331698 a document that is titled Information. This document was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. This document, this information alleges that on or about November 25th of 2021, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of failure to identify fugitive from justice. Mr. DeRoot, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. DeRoot, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
Now, you're pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes, sir.
Ms. DeRoot, I have before me another document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment. On page 2 of the same document, there are a set of initials, JMD, that are on a line next to a box that's checked guilty. Mr. DeRoot, did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
On the next page of the same document, Ms. DeRoot, there is a signature above the line that's titled Defendant. Ms. DeRoot, did you sign this document?
Yes, sir.
Mr. DeRoot, on the next document that's titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, there is a signature above the line that is titled Defendant. Ms. DeRoot, did you also sign this document?
Yes, sir.
At the top of this same document, Ms. DeRoot, there are 2 boxes checked. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you are waiving your right to an appeal, which means you are giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And Ms. DeRoot, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. State, you like to offer States 1?
Yes, Judge. State offer States 1.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection. State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Mr. Macy, you advise and counsel Ms. DeRoot, is there any evidence that she is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. DeRoot, your attorney, Mr. Macy, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Ms. DeRoot, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
In exchange for the defendant's plea, in this case, we're recommending confinement in Jefferson County Jail for a period of 3 days. However, we're asking that the court give the defendant credit for the 3 days that she's already spent in jail, essentially making this a time served plea agreement. And as it relates to the court cost in this case, we're asking that the court give the defendant credit for that time served and tax and retire those court costs as well.
Okay, Mr. Macy, is that your agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. DeRoot, the state is offering that you serve 3 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any more time in the Jefferson County Jail in this case because you've already served 3 days in Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, you will be given credit for time served. The court cost in this case is $327, but you will not have to pay the $327 because the time that you spent in jail has already paid it off. Therefore, the court cost will be taxed and retired. Ms. DeRoot, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes.
Mr. Root, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Root, please knock on that door. This will conclude your case. Please follow the bailiff and you have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You'll have a blessed day yourself.
Michael Gray,
They're home for Michael Gray.
the court is in session and calls number 332354, states the style of state of Texas versus Michael Joseph Gray. Mr. Gray, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gray, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Gray, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. Gray, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Gray?
I've seen better days.
Okay. Mr. Gray, you're here represented by your attorney, Attorney John Macy. Attorney Macy, do you waive a record in Mr. Gray's case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gray, I have before me a document that is titled information. This information was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. And this information alleges that on or about April 21st of 2022, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of communication harassment. Mr. Gray, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. Gray, how did you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No contest.
Now, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gray, I have before me a document that is titled misdemeanor plea admonishment. It is also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. On page 2 of the same document, there are a set of initials that are on a line next to boxes that's checked no to contendere, which means no contest. The initials are MG. Did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
On the next page of the same document, there's a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Did you also sign this document?
Yes, sir.
The next document that I have is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal. At the bottom of this document, Mr. Gray, there's a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Mr. Gray, did you sign this document?
Yes, sir.
At the top of the same document, there are two boxes that's checked. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gray, did you sign a document out there on paper that is titled Discovery Certification?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gray, before you signed and initialed all of these documents, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, sir, I did.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir, it is.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment, and in the court's file, I have the probable cause affidavit, which is State's Exhibit Number 2. State, you like to offer States 1 and 2?
Yes, Your Honor. State offers both states 1 and 2.
Any objections, Mr. Macy?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection, States Exhibits 1 and 2 are admitted. Mr. Gray, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gray, your attorney, Mr. Macy, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir, very satisfied.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Completely.
Mr. Macy, you've advised and counseled Mr. Gray. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Gray, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers was freely and voluntarily given. I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
In exchange for the defendant's plea in this case, we're recommending confinement in the Jefferson County Jail for a period of 30 days. And the state's asking that the court give the defendant credit for any time that he's legally entitled to.
They didn't have anything on. They gave him that's all. Okay, Mr. Gray,
Yes, sir.
the state is offering that you serve 30 days in the Jefferson County Jail. You'll be given credit for any time that you are entitled to get by law. The court cost in this case is $327. Mr. Gray, will you be able to pay the $327?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Gray, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gray, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Gray, this will conclude your case. You're excused. Please follow the bailiff and you have a blessed day.
You too, sir.
Your Honor, I believe Mr. Gray has more than 30 days credit. So if he does, then that will,
They will give him credit for that.
they'll give him credit for, to go toward his court costs as well, correct?
You can check with the jail staff on that. The jail will calculate the time and credit.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
now, Mr. Gray, you excuse me, you have a blessed day. And
You too, sir.
Mr. Macy,
Yes, Your Honor.
before you leave back in cause number 331698, as Miss Jessie Marie DeRoot, did you and your client sign a discovery certification?
Yes.
Okay. And that will be admitted into evidence.
Okay, that's fine, Your Honor. I gave both discovery certifications to the bailiff.
Okay, and did you went over that document with Ms. DeRoot?
I did.
Okay, all right. Mr. Macy, you're excused and you have a blessed day.
Thank you, Judge. Same to you.
Your Honor,
Thank you for calling.
Your Honor, thank you.